Let's talk about fires. In reference to the fires in Paradise and Malibu, is it again time to strengthen fire building codes, as it was apparently in 2008? Should development be prohibited in fire danger areas?
So it's a great question. Should development be prohibited in fire risk areas? Some of the most valuable real estate in our state is in at-risk areas. I grew up in Southern California, grew up with the Bel Air fires. People would do heroic efforts to save their home, and then they'd lose it in the ensuing floods. Nature repeats herself. You have massive wildfire incidents, but people have always built out into those areas. We had the controversial state risk area tax for people whose homes were protected by CAL FIRE, but they might have also been paying a local fire district. They argued it was double taxation. Why should I pay twice? And we had hearings in Sacramento. There was a local fire chief from in the foothills near Paradise who was opposed to the SRA fee. And I asked him, have you fought fires where you had air support? He said, oh, yes. And I said, who provides the air support? And he said, CAL FIRE. I said, has that air support helped you to suppress fires? He said, absolutely. I said, could you have provided the air support on your own? He says, no way. I said, no further questions. But the challenge is our budget, as I mentioned, for fire suppression, 2008 it was $90 million. This budget year it was $950 million. This budget we're in goes until June 30th. We've already drawn down $1 billion. So we're going into reserves for any ongoing fire incidents post-Woolsey in Paradise. I don't have a direct answer to your question. It's a function of land use planning, and people rebuild in the places that are burned. The question is who should shoulder the risk if people, and that's where I use the SRA example, should people pay more when they're building in more at-risk areas, or should all taxpayers shoulder that cost? A lot of people are underinsured, so what we see from the NorCal fires, they submit their claim, and what they get isn't enough to rebuild the square footage they had. Or in Paradise, do you rebuild there? In Malibu, do you rebuild in a canyon that's going to regrow and burn again? These are tough questions. I will say we're trying to put more of that fire suppression budget into prevention. Cambria is a prime example, the dead pine trees. We've allocated $200 million. I didn't mention our Senate Bill 1079 that got advance payment for your fire safe councils. The San Luis Obispo County Community Fire Safe Council is the recipient of $3.9 million for tree removal. It's being used in Cambria, but it used to be based on a reimbursement system, and so people couldn't front load the money for the contractors and then get reimbursed. So my Senate Bill 1079 that Governor Brown signed allows for the front-loading payment from CAL FIRE and through the state of California to our fire safe councils so we can accelerate this prevention work and not have to go back to the well every time for reimbursement. An approved project can get front-loaded. So that's going to allow, it was Chief Dan Turner, former CAL FIRE chief, who's now the director for your local Fire Safe Council. The chair of that is Supervisor Debbie Arnold. He said it would have taken them 30 years to achieve the projects that they have in mind on the reimbursement system. He said we can now do that in 3 years. So it's a huge breakthrough of getting that money to the front end of prevention.
Mm-hmm.